The switchboard is nothing more than a form you can customize with a bunch of command buttons that the front-end user can click on to open up a form or report. For example, as opposed to using the navigation pane here, if the front-end user comes over and they're looking at the forms to update the customer information, which one do they use here? Unless I clearly label them, they could get lost. Or maybe I have one form that I want to replace with another form. If they open up the wrong form to add the customer information to update it, then I could end up with data integrity issues. Instead, I can create the switchboard that has a button that when they click on it, it'll open up one of the forms here, the one that I choose. In other words, I can control what they have access to when it comes to the forms and reports. Not only that, but tables and queries. In that, I can hide this navigation pane, which I'll show you how to do in a later training video. And they really don't need to see the tables or queries, at least in my database, because both the forms and reports are based upon queries and tables. So I can limit them to just the forms and reports from the switchboard. And to create the switchboard, we need to add the Switchboard Manager command to the Quick Access toolbar. We can do that by coming up here and right-clicking on it, going down to Customize Quick Access Toolbar, change it from Popular to All Commands, and it's sorted alphabetically, so let's scroll down to the S's. And there we go, Switchboard Manager. Double-click. Oh, he's right up, kind of up the top. Let's move him down to the end and click Okie dokie, and then just come up here and there you go, Switchboard Manager. Click on it. The Switchboard Manager was unable to find a valid switchboard in this database. Would you like to create one? Why, yes, I would. Click Yes. And you can see it does three things. One, it brings up the Switchboard Manager, which we'll go over in just a minute. And then as you recall, the Switchboard Manager is a form. And so there's the form right there, Switchboard, that just got added. But it doesn't have any items or command buttons on it yet. And remember, the form is always going to be based upon a table, either directly or indirectly through a query. And so there's the table, Switchboard Items. So for every item or command button that we add to the form, it's got to keep track of it somehow. So it's going to store that data within the Switchboard Items table. So now back to our main switchboard, we can edit it to add commands to it to open up many forms and or reports. But I recommend that you don't junk up the main form with many buttons, but instead we can break this down and split it off from the main switchboard to say let's have a report switchboard and a form switchboard, because those who want reports don't want to sort through all the forms and vice versa. So I can create two additional switchboards that I can have them link and get access to those other switchboards from the main one here. So to create those additional switchboards, let's come over here and click on New, and we'll call this our report switchboard. Click Okie dokie, click on New again. And this one's the maintenance switchboard to maintain our data. Well, it's going to be the gateway to our forms, and you can call it the form switchboard, but hey, I'm going to call it maintenance because it's through our forms that we work with the data. So that's what I'm going to be calling it. Click Okie dokie. So I got a total of 3 switchboards here. The one is the default, the main switchboard, that when they open it up, this form right here, what we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of buttons on it that links to these other switchboards. And in addition to these other switchboards, you can add an additional button that opens up another form or runs a report. So I think what I'll do is I'll add a total of 4 buttons. One will be the customer info that I can open up the form in add mode so I can add additional customers so they don't have to go down to the maintenance switchboard to quickly add a customer. And then I'll add one to open up the maintenance switchboard to open up other forms, and then another to open up the report switchboard to see what reports that they can run. And then finally I'll add one to close the database here. So with this selected, let's go ahead and click on Edit, and then we want to create some items on the switchboard or buttons, commands. Click on New. This one's going to be my customer info. So to add customer information or to add a new customer, and the command is to open a form in add mode. What form is that? It's going to be my customer info. So that way, when they click on the button, opens up that form, and it's in add mode, so they can just go ahead and type in the new customer. Click Okie dokie, and then let's go ahead and click on New because we want to add another one. This one's going to be the run reports. So I want that to go to a switchboard, and the switchboard is going to be the report switchboard. Click Okie dokie, click on New, and then we want our maintain data form, to maintain our data, to work with the forms, to update the records within the forms. So the switchboard is the maintenance switchboard. Click Okie dokie, and then finally click on New. in case if they're done with all the work and they're on the main switchboard and they want to close out, we'll call this the close, and click on the drop down arrow, exit the application, and that's it for that one. So there's the main switchboard that we've been working on. We can go ahead and you can delete them, you can edit them if you need to make some changes. Let me click cancel. You can rearrange them by saying, okay, close is going to be moved up, or let's move it back down. Close out of that. So once they go to the main switchboard, from there it's going to spider out where they can click on a button that takes them to the maintenance, to the reports, or opens up the customer info form in add mode where they can quickly type in the customer's information and also close out. Now let me go ahead and work on the switchboard reports first. And what kind of commands we want on the switchboard report. Select it, click on Edit, and click on New. And let's add the category sales, because that one, when they click on the text, it'll open up the category sales report. So let's say the command is to open up the report. Click on the drop-down arrow, category sales, and click Okie dokie. And let's do another, click on New. This one will be the final report. Click on the drop-down arrow. Open up report, click on the drop down arrow, it's the final report, click OK, and then after we got a couple reports here, the only two that I want them to view, let's give them the option to go back to the main switchboard, so when they're done viewing the reports, if they want to close out or go to the maintenance side where they can open up forms, then let's give them that button, give them that choice, click on New, and say back to main switchboard, whatever you want to type in, and then it's got go to switchboard, and we'll select the main switchboard and click Okie dokie. So that's it for my reports. Let's go ahead and close out, and let's come back up here to the maintenance and edit that one, say new, and we'll have the edit categories. So we want to have the command to open up the form in edit mode. So it'll display all the records that we can search and go through and make changes to the data they're in. So it's in edit mode, and what form is it going to be? It's going to be the categories, and then click Okie dokie. And I think you get the point here that you can just keep on clicking new, and for the maintenance switchboard, add additional forms. So we'll stop it right there since we got the pattern. And let's go ahead and, of course, get a return back to the main switchboard. Click on new, and it's going to be the main switchboard. Click Okie dokie, and let me close out. And let's go ahead and take this for a test drive. Close out. So our main switchboard, remember it's a form, that when we turned on the switchboard manager, it added it here. So double click and there it is. Cool. Let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. The customer info, click on that. Opens up the customer data form in add mode. So down below you only get one of one, even though it has additional records, because when it comes to adding additional records, you're not editing any others. So you can go ahead and just type in the customer's information really quick and click save, and then when you click save, it'll show the other records. Go ahead and close out, and then we can run the reports, which opens up the report switchboard. And what reports do we want to run? How about the category sales? Oh, that's nice. And what's the next one? Final report. Ooh, that's fancy. Let's close out. How about if we go back to the main report, the main switchboard? Oh, that is so cool. This is working. Maintain data. And we've got just one here. Edit the categories. Click on that. Opens up the categories form in edit mode, so it shows all the records down below that I can go ahead and toggle and do some basic searches, filtering, update, edit the data. Nice. Close out. Back to main, and then when I'm finished, the last one that we want to try is close. And it closes out of my database, not the applications. So to open it back up, it's the most recent one today here. So just click on that and we're back to where we started. And remember, we got the switchboard items here. Double click on it, and it keeps track in the table. Let me close out of the field list of the commands and what item to run and the arguments here in the table. As you can see over here, the switchboard is numbered, so the main switchboard all in ones, and the buttons on the switchboard. Then the second switchboard is the reports, all identified by 2s, and then the maintenance all identified by 3s. So the 0 in the maintenance is the switchboard, and then the 2 commands on that switchboard. Now, of course, the switchboard doesn't look very aesthetically pleasing, but you know how to go ahead and open it up in Design View and make changes to it. You can do it that way, or you don't have to use the switchboard at all. you can create your own main form that could be your switchboard, that from that main form you can add a bunch of command buttons that when you click on it will open up, your other forms and reports, or another form that has a bunch of other buttons that when you click on those will open up reports, and maybe another form that opens up or has a bunch of command buttons that will open up a bunch of forms. This is one way that you can do it. After you learn how to create your switchboard, you want to modify it a bit, make it more aesthetically pleasing, like update the color of the buttons, maybe change the alternating row color, the banded rows from a light gray to every other row to something else, or just remove it entirely. And also, I'll show you how you can update the text here. So let's go ahead and right-click on the tab and go to the design view. First of all, how about the color? So there's the one black button in the details section. As you recall in earlier training videos, it'll duplicate depending upon how many records there are, and in this case 4 times because there are 4 buttons. So if we change the color to this one, it'll update all the other buttons. Let's go ahead and double click on the border to bring up the property sheet, and let's change the back color. Click on the build button, and let's do something like red. That will pop out. And then if we want a border color, hey, why not? Let's go ahead and change that. Choose something maybe that looks like a fun color, and then hit enter. And then as far as the alternating row color, well, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can, since you have the property sheet open, click on the detail bar here, and then on the Alt tab where it says alternate back color, click in it, click on the build button, and there's the default. You can choose something else here, or if you don't have the property sheet open with the bar still selected, make sure that's selected so you can come up here and click on the Format tab and get access to the alternate row color here in the background group, because if you click off somewhere else, you don't get it. Literally and figuratively. In any case, go ahead and click on the detail bar, and then you can change the row color, do something else. Maybe we'll do a light purple, see how that looks. And then right click, go to the form view, and it's okay. And then as far as the text goes, like if you want to change the text for the main switchboard from main switchboard to maybe just the main and other text, the buttons there, you can just go ahead and right click and go to the design view. And you can do it one of a couple of ways, since obviously you can't do it here because it's pulling in from the table that this form is based upon, which is the switchboard items. Double click, and there it is, main switchboard. So if you want to come in here and change that to just main, and then hold down the shift key and hit enter, well, that'll change it. Close out, and then right click on it, go to the form view. There we go. So you can change your text items within the switchboard items table, or you can come up here and click on the switchboard manager, and there's the main default now. Click on edit, and then change it back to main switchboard, and then that's it. Just type it in. There's no save button. Just go ahead and close out, close out. You won't see it here until you close out. Well, let me save it so it can refresh, and then double click to open it back up, and there's the main switchboard. Now you're not limited to the switchboard. Remember, the switchboard is nothing more than a form, albeit not the best looking form. In any case, you can go ahead and come up here, click on the Create tab, and just knock yourself out and design one from scratch, and go ahead and add your own command buttons to it that when you click on it, it could be just like these here. Either opens up another form, which would be sub-switchboard to the main switchboard, that can have access to all the buttons that will open up or run reports, and then another one that would open up the maintain data, that when they get to that point, you can have a bunch of buttons in there that would open up other forms. So like, let me come up here and right click and go to the design view. Because we covered this in an earlier training video, this is a refresher. Up here on the design tab in the controls group, there's your button. Go ahead and click on it, add the button, opens up the wizard. Well, make sure when you click on the more button that the use control wizard is highlighted so it can walk you through step by step what command you would like to apply to the button, like, open up a form, and in what mode, maybe in edit or add, and go ahead and make something that isn't so generic. But the whole purpose of the switchboard here is in case if you want something that's simple and fast and you don't have to do it all from scratch. Now I want to show you how you can go ahead and have the switchboard, or any form for that matter, automatically open as soon as you open up the database. Thereby you or the front-end user or both are able to dive right in and not come over here and mess around in the navigation pane. In any case, to go ahead and do this, click on the File tab, go down to Options, click on Current Database, and it's right there. Display form, we want the switchboard, or any form for that matter. And then click Okie dokie. We got to close and reopen the database for this to take effect. Okay. And close out. And there's my database file. Double click on it, and hey, there's the form. Isn't that great? I can just go ahead and start clicking and going right to work. Now, this would be a short training video if I didn't have additional tips, tricks, and shortcuts I wanted to show you, and I do. So let's go ahead and go backstage, click on the File tab, go down to Options, and select Current Database. And I think you'll find these helpful, like how about the application title? So instead of the title up here, integration, and then the address, and then the file format, and access, and all that other stuff, you can go ahead and replace that with the name of my company. Hey! And in addition to that, you can have an application icon that, well, I don't think it works in Access 2016, but in earlier versions of Access, you get that icon displayed up here on the title bar. But let me show you. Let's go ahead and click on Browse. And it's in my exercises folder on the desktop, and there it is, graph.ico. That ICO indicates it's an icon. And if you want to learn more about that ICO or extensions, you can watch my Windows training video on extensions, but let's go ahead and double click on it so it points right to that graphic icon in the exercises folder on the desktop. And you can also use this on forms and reports. So that icon will show up there as well. But like I said, I don't think it works in Access 2016, or at least not on my database here on my computer. It may work for you by displaying it up here on the title bar. In any case, let's keep moving. Let's come down here, and when I open this up, you know how the switchboard is spread across here? I can go ahead and say, instead of tab documents, display document tabs, do an overlapping window so it just centers right in the middle of my screen here by choosing overlapping windows. Oh, and if you'd like, not that I recommend this, but you can disable the status bar. When you uncheck that and you open the database back up, you won't get the little indicators or the status of what's going on, like we're in the form view here. Also, any message macros or other issues, it won't show the status bar, so you won't see it. But in any case, you can do that, and I'll show you what it looks like when you uncheck it. And then you got some other specials here, like compact on close. So compact and repair, so that way when you delete a table, it's able to go ahead and compact it so you can keep it more efficient. And let's go ahead and scroll down here. How about not showing the navigation pane? If you uncheck that, when you open up the database, they won't see this, so they won't get distracted to come over here and play with your objects. You just have to have them focus on the switchboard. That will pull up in the center. And then finally, how about that we allow full menus, not that when they click on the File menu, they don't get the options. So they can't come here and make changes. And allow default shortcut menus, you can get rid of that as well. So any shortcut menus that they were able to pull up are now disabled by unchecking that. And let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. Click Okie dokie. We made a lot of changes. Click OK. And so in order to go ahead and see all of them, we have to close out of the database and reopen it. And you can see some of the changes have already been updated or applied, like, hey, there's our graphic icon, isn't that fancy? But it's not up here on the title bar, as it used to be in earlier versions of Access. But there's the title, the name of the company, and nothing else, no address. In any case, let's close out, double-click to open it back up, and hey, there we go. Right off the bat, it's centered. We don't get the tabs, so they're not able to, well, right-click on it and be able to switch. Plus, we disable the shortcuts. There's the icon. There's no icon up at the top in the title bar, so that's gone. And of course, we got our Dreamforce for the title there. And look at that. We only get the Home tab. We don't get any additional tabs. Wow. I don't get a lot of running options here. And let's see. When we click on the File tab, well, okay, it minimized down to the taskbar. But hey, look at that. You do get the application icon. Let me click on it to restore it. There we go. Freaked out, but it took me backstage. In any case, we don't get the options down below. Ah, nuts. Can't make any changes, which, by the way, you're stuck. This was a way to go ahead and to get you into doing this. So now I have control. For $9.95, go ahead and send it to me and I will restore everything. No, I'm kidding. Just continue watching the training video and I'll show you how you can go ahead and restore the options so you can get back to undoing everything that I just did. But the options isn't there, so they can't make any changes. Let me hit the back arrow. And then down below, no status bar, so can't tell what's going on when we do certain things within Access and displaying the information down below, the status thereof. And then of course the navigation pane is not there, and so if you want to bring it up, you can go ahead and hit the F11 key, and there you go. Of course, don't tell the front-end user that, but too late. They may be watching this training video. In any case, if you want to hide it again, you can hit the F11 key and it just collapses it, doesn't remove it completely. So the only way to get rid of it is to close the database and reopen it, and then it'll be hidden. So once you reveal it, F11, it's stuck. It just expands and collapses. In any case, if you don't like this or you want to make some changes and you have to access the options backstage, let's go ahead and go back and close out. To do that, hold down the Shift key. Hold down the Shift key and double click to open it up, and it disables everything. So that way we can, well, the navigation pane is, let's restore that. You can click on the File tab and hey, our options are back. Whew, that was close. I'm glad you're still watching the training video. Go ahead and click on that, and there we go, current database. Now let me go ahead and restore everything, put it back the way it was, and see if I can remember this. Okay, application title, we had none. Let's go ahead and delete the address here, or, well, you can uncheck it. In any case, with it deleted, it's no longer available, so it's disabled here for us checking it. Instead of starting up with the switchboard, we'll say none. We want to display the status bar, of course. Want to go back to our tab documents with display document tabs. And one thing that you could do is, well, the F11 key that brought up the navigation pane, you could disable that. So by unchecking it, and then we open up our database again, hit the F11, it won't display this. So that's one way to get around it. In case if they do know that option, you can go ahead and uncheck that. But it's not just for the navigation pane. As you can see when I hover over it, it also gets rid of the special keys to show immediate window, show VB window, and pause execution. So keep that in mind. We'll go ahead and check that. And then scroll down. We want to display the navigation pane and allow full menus and allow default shortcut menus. Now before I go ahead and test this and click Okie dokie, while we're backstage, let me click on the client settings and scroll down just a little bit. And this is what I'm looking at, is the confirmation. When you go ahead and start working with switchboards and you've got action queries, like when they click on a button it runs an action query, it's going to want you to confirm that as long as this is checked. Now, you may not want to freak out the front-end user who's just used to having everything run efficiently, that when they click on a button to run the action query, again, you'll get the prompt saying, are you sure you want to do this? And it may be good in the sense that they got to confirm it and say, okay, yeah, in case if they accidentally click on an action query button that you have on a switchboard that they didn't mean to do, it's probably good to actually have the confirmation. Otherwise, if you don't want the confirmations, you can uncheck that, so when they actually click on the button that you have set up on your switchboard to run an action query, it just automatically runs it, and that's that. You don't get a little warning or a confirmation that says, are you sure? So you can go ahead and uncheck that, but I'll leave it checked. In any case, that's my explanation for that. Let's go ahead and click Okie dokie. Let's click OK, close out, reopen up the database. Now we're back to where we started. We've got the title here, not messing around. Back to the address, we've got our tabs here. Navigation pane showing, status bar. Click on the File tab, we can go down to Options, so everything looks just hunky-dory. Splitting a database is just like it sounds. It's dividing it into two, where you get a front end and a back end. On the front end, it'll contain all the objects like your queries, forms, reports that the front end user is going to be using. And it's going to be linked to the back end, which contains only the raw data or tables. If it's not linked, then on the front end, when somebody opens up a form or report, they won't be able to pull over any data. Now the back end is going to be stored on the server. That's accessible across the network to the front end. The front end is going to be stored on the user's local computer. So for example, if you have 20 users that need access to the database here, we can copy the front end database 20 times and add it to the desktops of their computers, that they can then access the raw data across the network, the back end database that's stored on the server. Now there are 4 benefits for splitting the database that I can think of. One is performance. Performance where only the shared data is sent across the network as opposed to all the data and slowing down the network. And then reliability, where if the front-end user encounters a problem or a corrupted file, it's usually limited to that copy of the front-end user's database on his machine. And then third, flexibility, where the front-end user can create their own forms, queries, and reports without affecting other users. So they can go ahead and junk up their forms and tweak it, whatever they want to do, and not have other users go, hey, I liked it the way it was. because on their computer, they can go ahead and mess with their front-end database and make it what they want, or their forms and reports. And then finally, administration. The admin has only one copy of the database to manage and protect, and that's the backend, the raw data, the one that contains only the tables. So to go ahead and split this thing, let's come up here and click on the Database Tools tab, go to the Move Data group, and it's right there. You got one cylinder splitting off into two, and you can see in the pop-up that it says you can split a database into two files, one containing the tables and one containing the queries and forms. Go ahead and click on it, and it says, would you like to split the database now? Okay, got a lot of extra stuff here. You can read about it. Let me go ahead and show you though. Click on Split Database, and then it says, okay, where do you want to store the backend? You can see it says create a backend. Now, it doesn't say front end, but what it does is it takes your original database here and converts that to the front end. So first of all, before it converts it, we got to have a backend. And where do we want to store this? On my desktop. Sounds good. What's the name? It's going to be the same name as the front end, but it's going to add an underscore and BE for back end. You can change it and call this is my spiffy happy-go-lucky backend, whatever you want to name it, but I'll leave it as is. Keep it simplistic, at least for me. So the name underscore BE for backend. Click split. And then it says it was done successfully. Now when I click okie dokie, watch what happens to the original database here. Over here, the tables, because it's going to be converted to the front end. So it won't store the raw data, the tables, in the front end. But watch what happens when I click okie dokie. Do you remember what these arrows mean? Of course you do, because you watched all the Access training videos. And if you haven't, well, you may be missing out on something. Not in this part, because I'm going to explain it. It's the links for the data that's contained herein to the back end. And you can see when I hover over it, you get the address that points on the desktop to the integration underscore BE. And again, the arrows indicate that that's the link to the table. So it's storing nothing in these tables, but you can go ahead and double click to open it up, and it's displaying it because it's pulling it in so you can see it because it's linked to the data on the back end. Just like the forms here that are linked to the tables, that when it looks at the table, it goes, hey, there's nothing in us here. You have to go to this address, and then it quickly goes to the address, pulls the data in, and then it pulls it into the form that's based upon that table. And of course, just like you can in normal tables, you can with these link tables right-click and go to the design view and check it out. Let's go ahead and close out. And let's close out of here because on my desktop we have the front end. It's the integration and then the extension.accdb, which you probably won't see on your desktop in Windows because by default Windows turns off the extension. The extra, well, after the dot here, the name that tells the operating system what program to open up this file in. In any case, if you want to learn more, you can watch my Windows training video on extensions. But there's the front end because I don't see the underscore BE, which is over here. There he is, all hiding, and you can see underscore BE. So there's the back end, which just stores the raw data or only tables. So what we find in here is the front end, that when we want to take a look at the data that's organized into forms, reports, or even the tables, that it all comes looking for this guy right here on the desktop. So let's double click. And he only has the tables right there, raw data, nothing more. Now it's recommended that you create your switchboards after you split the database because it's best if the switchboard table resides on the front end and not with the rest of the tables on the back end. And why? Because you can customize the switchboard, so if you're customizing it on the back end, you're customizing it for everybody. And hey, maybe not everybody likes it. So go ahead and create your switchboards on your front end after you split the database so it's proprietary to just your front end and not annoy anybody else. Or if they don't like your switchboard or the way it's been set up and they want their own way of doing it. Now, you'll probably want to watch the next training video because I'm going to show you how you can break up your database. In other words, we have it split right here, right? But you want to learn how to take the back end and put it on the network in another folder and then reconnect it so you can have the front end user access that back end. Now that you have a split personality, a database, as we learned in the previous training video where we have a front end and a back end, the front end, as a reminder, contains, well, your forms, reports, and tables, but remember, it's all linked to the back end where it actually stores the raw data because if there's no link and you try to open up the link table or form report, you get nothing because it's empty. It's just a shell of a program. It's got nothing in there. Well, as far as the raw data goes, it's all stored on the back end. So to distribute these, like if you want the backend on your network, well then go ahead and open up your network folder, take that and put it right onto the network. But for the sake of simplicity, let's say that my network folder, click and drag this, is my exercises folder because the concept's the same. Once I go ahead and move it there, and I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and open up my front end, double click, and I want to take a look at the customers. It's like, I can't find it because the address was the desktop. So what we have to do, let me click okie dokie. It's also the same with the forms because the forms are based upon the linked tables, and linked tables are based upon tables in the back end that, again, it cannot find because it's supposed to be on the desktop and it's not. And so what we need to do is we need to go ahead and right click on one of these tables and go down to the linked table manager, and we need to go ahead and select all of them by clicking on select all, and then we want to prompt for new locations. So when we click okie dokie, we can browse, and well, it's on the desktop in the exercises folder, double click and it's right there. But you know, if it's on your network, you would go to scroll down to your network, you'd find it somewhere out there, and then when you find it, you double click on it, and then it says all selected linked tables were successfully refreshed. Okie dokie. So instead of just linking to the backend on the desktop, it says, well, it's in the exercises folder now that's on the desktop. So when we close out and we open up the customers table, hey, it pulled in the data because it knew where it was, because we went out and found it and said, hey, connect, and now it's connected. So let me go ahead and close out. That's the front end here, so you can go ahead and take that and distribute that, copy it over to other people's desktops so they can go ahead and double click on it and access the same location. And so again, double click. If they can't access it, right click on one of the link tables and do what we just did with the link table manager to make that connection. When it comes to opening up your database, it's very simplistic. You can just double click on it and it opens it up. But there are different access modes to your database, and the default one is, well, the double click opens a database for shared access with multiple users. But the other modes that I want to go over, and one we did cover in an earlier training video, it was the exclusive mode. We had to use that to open it up exclusively to be able to set a password to our database or remove it. And it was exclusive that no other user could open the database. So there's other modes that I want to show you. And to show you those, well, I've got my database open. Integration, if I want to open it up in another access mode that we'll cover, you don't have to close out of it and not have it open already. It's fine. It's already open. You can go ahead and reopen it again within the Access program, even though it's already up. So let's go ahead and click on File, go down to Open, and then click on Browse. And this is where you find the access mode, well, or modes, which is the drop-down arrow next to the open. But first of all, we've got to select our database, right? Don't double-click on it. You want to select it and then click on the drop-down arrow here, and here we go. So again, the open is the default mode, or just double-clicking on it. It opens up the database for shared access with multiple users. Then you've got the open read-only, where it allows you to read only the database while all other users can read and write. And then open exclusive, only you can read and write to the database, no other user can open the database. And then open exclusive read-only, where you can read only. Also, other users can open the database, but in read-only mode as well. And then finally, show previous versions. Your computer will store those from time to time and be able to show those. So let's go ahead and do something simplistic like read-only. When I select that, it tells me up at the top it's read-only. This database has been open read-only. You can only change data in the linked tables. To make design changes, save a copy of the database. So I can only read if I go ahead and right-click on this form and go to Design View, and I want to be able to make changes like here, let's delete this, then go ahead and click Save. It doesn't allow me to save. Why? Because it's in read-only. Nuts. So how do you get rid of that so you can make changes to it? Well, you have to open it up out of that mode, like just in a general mode where it allows you to make design changes. So you go ahead and close out and then double click. And there we go. We can go ahead and it doesn't give me the warning and right click and go to the design view, delete, and then be able to save that, but I won't. I like my form as is. A trusted location is a folder known to Access as a location that should not be checked by the Trust Center, so as to prevent any warnings about macros, ActiveX controls, or data connections that the Trust Center would typically see as harmful. So if you get these warnings up here going, are you sure you want to use this? It's got a macro in it, and you don't want to see that anymore because, hey, I'm tired of seeing it and saying, yes, it's okay, it's okay. Instead, if you have files that you trust, access databases, let me minimize this down to the taskbar, you could create a folder and say, okay, anything that I put in this folder, I want it to disable those messages or warnings about macros, ActiveX controls, and data connections because I've already done the vetting. I trust them. So that brings up another good point. If you make this folder as a trusted location, don't put anything in there that you don't trust because, again, it won't give you any warnings. So to go ahead and set that location as a trusted location, let's go ahead and restore this. In Access, come up here, click on the File tab, go backstage down to Options, select Trust Center, and then click on the Trust Center Settings button, and it's right there, Trusted Locations. And it says, warning, all these locations are treated as trusted sources for opening files. And so if you change or add a location, make sure that the new location is secure. So to go ahead and add a new location, let's come down below and click Add New. And let's browse, and it's going to be on our desktop. Over here, the exercises folder, click Okie dokie. And then if we add any subfolders in it that we wanted trusted, we can go ahead and check that, and you can write a description, but I'll keep it simple. Click Okie dokie, and there you go. So any Access database files that I put in that folder, it's now trusted. It sees it as trusted, so it won't give us any warnings about those macros, ActiveX controls, or data connections that it's weary about and wants to make sure that you're warned. But hey, if you've already been through it, you vetted it, you trust the database files, no sense in having those warnings every time you open it up and doing an extra click to say, no, we're okay with this. So go ahead and click Okie dokie and click OK, and there you go. And if you want to remove it, well, same thing, just File, Options. Let's speed it up, Trust Center Settings, Trusted Locations with this selected, come down below, remove it, click OK, and all the files in there, when you open up a file from that location, it's not trusted or set in the trusted location, will give you warnings if it contains those macros and ActiveX controls or data connections. To prevent unauthorized users from deleting, editing, copying your VBA code or Visual Basic Application code that you work so hard that you don't want them to steal it, to destroy it, go ahead and password protect it. You can do that by coming up here, clicking on the Database Tools tab, going to the Macro group, clicking on Visual Basic, and then coming up here, clicking on the Tools, go down to the Properties. Database 1 Properties is for my database, but it's the Properties, the operative word. Click on that. Click on the Protection tab and Lock Project for viewing. And then type in your password, PASS. Mine's very simplistic, also easy to break. PASS. I recommend that you choose something a little bit more complicated than that, but in any case, want to keep it simple. Click Okie dokie. That's it. Come up here, go File to close and return to Microsoft Access, and then we'll close out. So it solidifies. Then we can go ahead and open up my database again, and then let's go ahead and see if we can view the Visual Basic code and try to delete it, steal it, whatever we can do. Come up here, click on Database Tools, go to the Macro group, click on Visual Basic, and it's right there. Let me expand it. Oh, it's locked. I can't even view it unless I have the password, PASS, hit Enter, and there we go. Expand the folder, and I can look at the coding for, I'll double click, there we go. For the form categories, double click for the sub order, and for the orders, the sub form there. And then of course to go ahead and remove it, Tools, Properties, Protection, uncheck, and delete, okie dokie, File to close and return to Microsoft Access, and then close out. And then double click to open it up, and come up here, Database Tools, to the Macro group, Visual Basic, and hey, I can view it. Great. If somebody would like a copy of your database, but you're concerned about them being a weasel, copying your codes and modifications and calling it their own, there's a level of protection you can offer it by converting your database from the default extension .accdb into .accde. And if you don't know anything about extensions, you can watch my Windows training video on extensions. Additional benefits include, well, when you convert it to an .accde, is that 1, it reduces the size of the database, 2, optimizes memory usage and improved performance, 3. Protects the VBA code from being viewed or edited while allowing it to run. And then 4. Allows users to update the data, run reports without providing the entire database. And to get a little bit more specific about the forms, reports, and modules, that it doesn't allow them to view, modify, or create forms, reports, and modules in the design view. They also can't add, delete, or change references to database or object libraries. They can't change the source code, and they can't import or export forms, reports, or code modules. Phew, that's a lot of restrictions. So let's go ahead and learn how to convert this. It's as simple as coming up here and clicking on the file, going backstage down to Save As, and it's right there under Advanced. It's Make accde. File will be compiled into an executable only file. Go ahead and select that and then click on Save As, or you can double click on it and opens up the Save As window. And you can see the Save As type is the extension .accde, and it's going to be on my desktop. That's fine. And it's got the original name of the database file integration, but it's got a different extension, not the .accdb, so I'm okay with the same name. Just know this one's going to be the .accde. Click Save, and that's it. Let's go ahead and close out and take a gander. So here's the original database file, and here's the other one. Which one of these is not like the other? It's this one. It's got the lock, meaning that we're really restricted. And you can see there's the extension, well, on the other side of the dot there. So when I hand this off to somebody else and they double click to open it up, and they're like, haha, I've got everything. Let me go ahead and right click on the form to open up in, I can't open it up in design view. Nuts. Well, what can I do? Well, you can double click on it to view the data, but you can't right click anywhere to go to the design options to, make changes to it and view all the back-end coding. Access 2016 allows you to create a self-signed digital certificate. That way, when you're done coding and creating the macros, and you want to let the users that you're going to hand this off to know that the content is safe and secure, go ahead and digitally sign the database. So to go ahead and create that digital signature that we can attach to the database and digitally sign it, let's come down here and open up Windows Explorer by right-clicking on the Start button, going to Open Windows Explorer, and over here in the navigation pane, let's click on the computer. Then over to the right, let's open up the C drive, double-click, and double-click on the Program Files folder. And then let's go down to Microsoft Office, double-click. And then I'm only going to go so far before I say, okay, now it's time to do the search. And we're going to search for SELFCERT for self-cert. Then hit the Enter key on the keyboard, and it's right there, self-cert executable program. So when you double click on that, there you go. This is how you can create your digital certificate and thereby digitally signing the database. But first of all, the certificate. Now it tells you that when you do a self-sign, which is what we're creating here, because it might be a forgery, it'll give other people a warning when they open the file that contains a macro project that is self-signed, saying, hey, the original could be a forgery. And so a self-signed certificate is only for personal use. If you need an authenticated code signing certificate for signing commercial or broadly distributed macros, you will need to contact a certification authority, which you can do so by clicking here. There are some recommended certificate authorities, and let's click on that to open it up. And scroll down to find, well, I use Komodo. You can use whatever you like, but it's recommended. Click on that, and it's going to redirect to komodo.com. And let's go ahead and scroll down, because when it comes to doing signing, like for coding, even though it says online, let me go ahead and click Get Now, because what I want to show you here is the code signing, and you get two options to choose from. Let's just go ahead and click on code signing, so you can compare between the two. So when it comes to code signing, like with our Access database and macro codes, and you want to be able to say, hey, this is truly from me and it should be trusted because I did it and it's not from somebody else who forged my name that is pretending that it's from me when it's really not. So you can go ahead and compare and contrast between the two options here, and then you can go ahead and follow the directions installed on the computer. And then once you do that, let's go ahead and close out of here and close out of all tabs. And then I'll show you how you can go ahead and digitally sign it. But first, let's go ahead and create our own digital certificate and not one from a certificate authority by coming down here and typing in my name, Kurt Kershaw. And then that's it. Click Okie dokie, and it says, hey, we successfully created this. Okie dokie. And then we can go ahead and close out of here. And then to sign it, or to add that digital certificate to this database, come backstage, click on File, go down to Save As, and it's right there. It's called the Package and Sign. Package the database and apply a digital signature. So it's going to wrap it up in a bundle, and it'll have our signature applied to it. That is, after I select it and click on Save As, or I double click on it, which certificate do I want to sign with? Well, this one's a personal one, so if I go ahead with it selected and click Okie dokie, it says it's not fit for code signing, so please choose another. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back, File, Save As, and Package and Sign, double click. And the other one is a self-signed certificate, so it's only good for basically verifying the authenticity of this on this computer. It's not for mass distribution, as we just read. In any case, go ahead and select it, click Okie dokie, and then before it actually signs it, it wants to package and then sign it or attach the signature to the package. So it's going to package it in a different extension. The original is accdb, this one's accdc, and the extra little c is to let you know that it contains a certificate or a signature, as the C is for certificate. So let's go ahead and create this on our desktop and close out so we can compare and contrast between the two. So here's the original and here's the digitally signed one. Hey, great! You can see the extension accdc as opposed to accdb. So you can see it's also got this cute little ribbon that says, hey, it's digitally signed. When you hover over it, it says Microsoft Access Signed Package. Double click. And it says a potential security concern has been identified. Note the digital signature is valid, but the signature is from a publisher whom you have not chosen to trust. Do you want to go ahead and trust this person? You could say yes and trust everything from this particular publisher, which, well, it's just from me, this computer here. Or you can just go ahead and say, let's just open it up. And when it opens it, it says, okay, I'm unpackaging it now from the accdc to the accdb. So then we can go ahead and say, well, I already have this on the desktop, so let's just call this the one that was digitally signed, as it were, and save it as such and click Okie dokie. So we can close out and let's explain it this way. So here we go. We had the original that we digitally signed and packaged, and then when we got it, we double-clicked to open it up, and to see it, it had to unpackage, unzip it into its, well, original file, which we renamed and didn't overwrite the original here before we digitally signed it. What I want to show you here is how you can hide empty records and the corresponding labels. So for example, my phone list, Bob Appleman, he doesn't have an extension. His record's empty. And so instead of wasting ink and printing off ext when he doesn't have an extension, I want to be able to, well, I can't delete it because if I do that, then everybody else who does have an extension, they won't have the label here. So I want to hide it when they don't have an extension and also hide the record. And what I mean by that is that if I hide the extension here for Bob Appleman because he has an empty record, well, I'll still have this white gap here from Bob to the line below. And I want to essentially hide that behind the scenes text box that would have displayed something if he did have a record, or collapse it so we can bring Bob Appleman down to the line and, condense the report. Because if I had hundreds to thousands of them that didn't have an extension, well, that will take up more pages than necessary. So the first thing I want to do is to get rid of the label and in its place create an unbound text box where I can insert the if function. And if you don't know anything about the if function, you can watch my Excel training video on if, but essentially what I want it to do is to say if there's nothing over here in the field, then don't display anything over here. But if there is something here, like an extension, then go ahead and insert the 3 letters ext. Sound good? Alrighty, let's go ahead and right click in a blank area, go to the design view, and let's come over here and delete the label. Now nobody has a label, but we'll fix that. Let's come up here on the design tab, go to the controls group and get our text box, select it, add it. Let's get rid of its label. And then I could go ahead and type in the if function in here, but it's so small that you wouldn't see the entire syntax. So instead, let me go ahead and double click on its border to bring up the property sheet for that text box. And on the Alt tab in the control source field, well, that's still too small. Let me go ahead and right-click on it and zoom in. And paste the function, and can you see that? It's kind of tiny. Well, let me do this. Let me go ahead and right-click and open up a blank Word document and paste it there, but let me go ahead and select it and increase the font size, and well, you can see that, right? Oh, good. Okay. So the if function in Access has an extra I, where in Excel it has just one I, spelled correctly, if. And the syntax, as a brief overview, is that you've got 3 arguments. The first one is to the left of the first delimiter, which is this comma here, is a logical test. If it's true, then over to the right of that is the true statement, what to do, and if it's false, over to the right of the last comma is what to do. So let me come back here and explain this test first. So we have all this over here to say if this equals these set of quotes, well, not these set, but what's between it, which is nothing. So if I do this test and it equals nothing in the extension field, then if it's true, do that. If it's false, do that. Well, let's go ahead and break this part of it. Well, okay, not select that, but let's break this part of it down here first. So first of all, we have the NZ function that allows empty values, in this case, if the extension is blank. So we're saying if the extension field is blank here, there's nothing there, the NZ says, well, we'll allow those empty values. And then outside of that, we have the trim function that is used to eliminate any extra spaces. So if it's empty and it's got a space, then the trim takes it out. So we really have it cleaned up. So if there's nothing in there, well, if it has an extra space, it'll remove it. But if there's nothing in the extension field and it equals in between those 2 set of quotes, absolutely nothing there, great. Then it meets the true condition here to allow nothing to be inserted. But if it's false and there is something in the extension field where they actually have an extension, then go ahead and add the text ext. So this is going to be in place of the label. To actually add a label for us, as it were, the ext, if there's actually something in there. So let's go ahead and close out of here and don't save it. And with that there in there, let's go ahead and click Okie dokie and then hit enter to make sure it accepts it. And then I need to take this because it's going to be the label now for this. That is, if there's actually something in that field, and I want to collapse that to about, let me see, hover over the right middle resizing handle, click on it, and you can see down below in the status bar it's got 3 characters. Well, you don't see it now because I let go of it, but when I click on it, that right middle resizing handle, 3 characters is pretty good. Okay. Now, when you create an unbound text box, it adds a line around it. So I want to get rid of that line by coming up here and clicking on the Format tab and go to the Shape Outline, and there's the color of it. I don't want it to have a color. Let's do Transparent. And let's go ahead and right-click on it and go to the Report View. Okay, so if he doesn't have anything in the record here, not an extension, don't show the ext text. And hey, that worked for Bob, and everybody else who did have an extension gets it. Cool. Of course, it's not aligned just so, but hey, we know how to do that from earlier training videos, how to nudge it and push it and align it just right. In any case, I'll leave the aesthetics up to you. But the next thing that I'm looking at is that we've got this white space. So I don't want to waste paper. If they don't have an extension, first we hide that. But I also want to be able to take Bob Appleman and collapse him down to the line here as if there was no text box there at all, because in the design view it's still there, so that's why we got the space to say that, hey, if there was something there it would be displayed here, but since there's nothing there, let's shrink it up. So let's go ahead and right click, go to the design view, and for the if function text box here, we want to come over here to the property sheet and scroll down just a little bit until I can find, there we go, can shrink. It says no, and when I click in it, it says control or section, well, let me get out of the way. Control or section shrinks vertically when printed to eliminate blank lines. And it's got a question mark saying, do you want it to eliminate this by shrinking vertically if it has nothing in there? Oh yes, double click, great. Let's go ahead and do it for this guy as well, because if we do it for one and not the other, it's not going to collapse them, because this guy will still be expanded, as it were. So for the extension, well, it flipped out. Now we have to come up here to find it on the Alt tab, can shrink, double click and say yes. Let's go ahead and save it. And let's take it for a test drive, right click, go to the report view, and hey, isn't that fancy? Not only did we save ink by removing the 3-letter extension if they don't have an extension, but also space. Microsoft Access does not have a table of contents or an index feature for reports. However, you can use a table to store descriptions and page numbers, and then create a report that is based upon that table to use as a table of contents report. For example, I have my customer orders report here, double-click to open it up, click on it to zoom in, where I have my categories and the products that are tied to that category. So what I want to do here is create a table of contents report that will list the category name and the page number I can find it on. So for example, we got accessories on page 1, and I think the next category is on page 4. There we go, Fort Tent. So the first thing I need to do is to create a table called the table of contents, and of course, based upon that table, we'll have the table of contents report. It's a little bit more than creating a table. It's going to require some coding, but if you're patient with me, we'll be able to get through this pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and close out of here, and to create our table called the table of contents, come up here, click on the Create tab, go to the Tables group, and let's do it by design. And there's only 2 fields that I'm going to be adding here. The first one's going to be called Category. Hit the Tab key. The data type is short text. That's fine. But down below in its properties, for indexed, we will say yes, no duplicates. We just want one. We don't want copies of one. And then below that, we're going to add our page number. Hit the Tab key, change the data type to number. And then let's go ahead and save it. Click on the Save button, call it our table of contents, and hit Enter. And it says, oh, there's no primary key in here. Are you sure you want to save it without it? Yes, because we do have the category that we said is going to contain no duplicates. So let's go ahead and say no, and it saves it. Let's go ahead and close out of here. Now you're probably asking, how do we get that information from this report, the category, and its corresponding page number it found on, over into the table of contents here, where we can base a report upon this table and print off our table of contents? Well, we're going to have to create a module for this, and in this module add some coding that tells it to look into this report, take the information, and dump it into here. And then of course, after we do that, we can generate a report based upon the data found in this table of contents here. But before I create the module, as a disclaimer, you want to be sure that you follow everything that I'm doing here, because in that module that we're coding, it will be referring to the actual names here, like the name of the table of contents, the exact name of the fields within that table. So if you create this and you type in table of content and it's not plural, and you go ahead and add the coding, you want to make sure in that coding that it's not plural, that it doesn't have the S. So you want to dot your I's and cross your T's. In any case, I'll explain this a little bit more when we look at the coding, but just keep that in mind, okay? All right, let's go ahead and create a module by coming up here, click on the Create tab, go to the Macros and Code group, and click on Module. And then if you have my instructor notes, you can go ahead and copy and paste it into here, the coding that I have there. Or if you're watching the training video, you may have to pause it and retype in everything, but hey, whatever works best for you. So let me go ahead and paste that, and there you go. Now you need to know that when I pasted the code, there were lines that were added automatically by the module here where it says, okay, here's a break, and it added a line here. So don't worry about the lines, just simply type it in as you see it, or again, if you have the instructor notes, copy and paste the code. Now, I'd be lying to you if I told you I understood all the code here. What I did is I looked at it and broke it down and created my own variation of it. So we've got generic code here, and you can see the green comments. That explains the code down below and what it's doing. And like here, it says it wants to open up the table of contents. So that's why it's extremely important that if you want to get this right, that you do everything that I'm doing here. I mean, maybe your table of contents table, again, isn't exactly the same name. Maybe you just have TOC for table of contents. Well, if that's the case, you need to come in here and go ahead and delete in between the quotes here every instance that you find of table of contents and type in TOC. And not only that, for the table of contents, but remember inside that table, we also had the category as one of the field names, and also page number. So every instance you see the category name and or the page number, well, that's the page counter, but the page number, you want to make sure that you update that to reflect whatever name of the fields that you gave inside your table of contents, because otherwise this isn't going to work. Now let me go ahead and come up here and save this. And our module name is going to be TLC. Now make sure you have it exactly spelled as I have it here, because otherwise, again, this isn't going to work. So the best thing to do is do everything that I'm doing here, and then once you get it, go into your own database and then just update these names in the code and everywhere else with the names that you're using that matches up or syncs with, as it were. So let's go ahead and click Okie dokie. And then when we're done, come up here, click on the file, go down to close and return to Microsoft Access. So now we have the report and the code that will look into the report and take the information of the categories and their page numbers and dump it into the table of contents. So the next thing to do is to create a report that's going to be based upon the table of contents here, so we can pull that information and be able to print it off. So to do that, come up here on the Create tab, go to the Reports group. Let's do it by design. And you got your page header. You can do whatever you want in there. I'm not going to mess with that. You can put in your logo, the title of the report, whatever. But what I want to do is to base this report upon the table of contents. So to do that, let's go ahead and double click in the gray area to bring up the property sheet for the report and click on the All tab. Let me go ahead and scroll up. I'm like, where's the record source field? It's right there. Had to scroll. Click in it, click on the drop down arrow, and we want to select the table of contents. Great. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and close out of here. And then now it's based upon that, we can add fields. Come up here on the Design tab to add existing fields that this report is based upon, that table that's in that table. And its category, hold down the Shift key and select page number. Click and drag those onto the report. And you can have the labels, but I'm not, because, well, let me get rid of them. When I open up this report, it's very simplistic, at least for me, that when I see the name and a number, I'll know it's the category and page number. But hey, it's your flavor. Let me go ahead and close out of the field list. And so I don't have this gappage from one record to the next, let me go ahead and scroll down here and hover over the top of the page footer section, that bar, until I can see arrows pointing up and down, and click and drag. Scroll up, click and drag, so I can eliminate all that extra space so the next record is right underneath it. And then let's go ahead and click Save. This will be my RPT. Report Table of Contents, and click Okie dokie. Then once we're done with that, let's close out of that. And next, we need to go back to our original report here in the design view and do a little bit more coding so we can tie the report into the module. So let's right-click on the main report, go to the design view, and in here, we need to bring up the property sheet for the entire report. So we can come up here and, well, you got that little black square. Just, if you don't, it doesn't matter, just double-click in the upper left-hand little box there. And then it brings up the property sheet for the entire report. Click on the Event tab, and where it says On Open, click in there. And remember, we named our module, the coding, TLC. So I want to type in the function equals init, and there it is. It's a user-defined function, so it's something that, well, when we created our module and saved it, it allows us to insert it as a function here. So hit the Tab key. And then notice it gives me an open set of parentheses. It didn't close it, so I need to go ahead and close it before it's going to have any efficacy, and then hit enter to make sure it's okay. Okay, next we're talking about categories. So when we open up this report, it's going to look at that module. And then when it looks at that module, we need a little bit more coding. We're going to come up here and select the category header section by clicking on its bar. And then over here in the property sheet on the Event tab, in the On Print, we need to go ahead and type in some code. Let me right-click on it to zoom in. And let me go ahead and paste it in there. Or you can type in equals update table of contents, TLC, the module. And then inside we got the fields, the category, comma, and then the report. So what it's going to do is going to update the table of contents with the category here found in this report to spell it out completely. Then go ahead and click Okie dokie. Hit the Enter key on the keyboard to accept that. And then down below in the page footer, because we're dealing again with the category for the category header, but now we're dealing with page numbers, which is down below in the page footer, as you can see there. So select the page footer bar here. So we got the property sheet for that section. And then again, on the Event tab here in the On Print field, let's go ahead and type in equals update. There we go. The function user defined, again, that's us. Table of contents, that module, update page number. Hit the Tab key, hit enter. Oh, maybe it didn't exactly get it. I probably cut it off. Or there we go. We just didn't add that extra little parentheses there. And then go ahead and hit enter. So if you didn't see that, after you type it in and it starts prompting you to go ahead and select it and hit the tab key to fill it all in, let me click in it and hit end. It had the open set of parentheses, but it didn't close it. So now I closed it and it's fine. And then let's make sure that we go ahead and save it. And that ought to do it. And my voice is running out. So let's go ahead and close out of here, close out of there. Now we can go ahead and take this for a test drive. So how this works with all the coding and everything that we did is that when we want to go ahead and dump into the table of contents table all the categories in this report with the page numbers they can be found upon, we have to open up the report. Double click. It's got to be in print preview. Once you open it up, you can't just close out of it because otherwise it doesn't go through an index and finds all the categories on their different pages and adds a page number to it in the table of contents. To be able to do that, we have to actually flip through all the pages. Well, not one by one, but instead, to make it a lot faster, just go ahead and click on the last page. When you do that, it automatically scans through the entire report, pulls out all the categories and the page numbers that they can be found upon. And you have to do that every single time that you make any changes to your report. Like if you added extra records, and the category gets bumped from page 4 to page 5, well, to be able to update the table of contents table to reflect those changes, you first have to open up the report and then just click on the last page. It'll automatically go through it, find out all the categories, what page numbers they're on, and let me close out. It'll dump them into the table of contents table. Double click. Look-see there. We've got our accessories, of course, on page 1. Then the fort tent on page 4 and screen tent on page 6, and oh, that's fabulous. Now remember, we based a report upon this, so if we want to print this off, let's close out, open up the table of contents report, double click, and there you go. Of course, that's just horrifying. Those lines around those labels and around the date and the alternating row color, but hey, come on, this is level 3, the last training video. You know how to clean this up, that is, if you watch those training videos. So, to emphasize my point, make sure you type in everything exactly as you see me type it in, spelled correctly, and the steps that I did. And when you go ahead and add additional records that will show up in your reports, that will push, well, maybe fort tent onto page 5, or maybe you deleted some products and it will pull that category back onto page 3. If you want it to reflect accurately, then every single time before you generate the table of contents report, which is based upon the table of contents table, which is going to be pulling in through the module what it finds in your report here. And the report is based upon, well, these other tables here. So if you add, delete products, you got to go ahead and open up your report here. Double click and make sure you click on the last button. It scans it, index it, finds everything, close out, and then you can go ahead and get your accurate results when you generate your table of contents. What you're looking at here is my payroll table for the employees, and I have a field with the data type yes, no, and the display control for that is a checkbox. So if yes, they do have health insurance, it'll be checked. If no, they don't, it'll be unchecked. Now you can change that display control from a checkbox to, well, let me show you. Come up here, right click on the tab, go to the design view. And there it is, the data type for health insurance, yes, no. Come down below into its field properties, click on the lookup tab, and there it is, a checkbox. Now to go ahead and change that, click in it, click on the drop down arrow. You can change it to a combo box, it has no problem. But if you try to change it to a text box, it has a problem. And it had a problem since Access 2013. You can do it in Access 2010, but not 2013 or 2016. So what do? Well, you can't do it here, but I have a workaround, meaning that we have to create that field again. Let me show you. Let's go ahead and close out of here and not save it. And let's open it back up. Now I can't create this field again, the health insurance field with the data type set to text box in the design view. It won't work. Instead, I got to be in the datasheet view to create this yes, no data type field with the display control as a text box. So in the datasheet view, just come up here to its related contextual fields tab, click on it, and then go to the add and delete group, click on more fields, and then go ahead and scroll down, and there it is, yes, no, select it, and it adds a new field. with the data type yes, no, with the default set to no. But what about the display control? Well, it's not a checkbox. It doesn't look like a combo box. It's a text box. How do I know? Well, you can go ahead and change this name here, field 1, if you want, to health 2. So later on, you can go ahead and do a query and just, bring everything over here, over into this field. But in any case, I digress. We have our new yes, no data type field with the display control text box. Again, to confirm it, well, you can go ahead and click here. And you can see up here on the Fields tab, the formatting's yes, no. But let's go ahead and right-click, go to the Design view, and come down below, click on the Lookup tab, and hey, it's a text box. Oh, that's nice. So there you go. There's the workaround. You just can't create this in the Design view. So when you're creating your database, create it first before you start entering in information. Otherwise, if you already have it in there and you want to convert it to a text box, well, like I said, the workaround is to go ahead and create it, but from the datasheet view, as I just showed you, and then go ahead and create a query and just basically say, okay, bring everything that's over here and put it over into the new data type field yes, no, but with the text box display control. In fact, let me show you one other thing here. Let me go back to the datasheet view. So, it's no by default. You want to change it to yes, go ahead and click in any one of those fields, and the default is 0 for no. If you delete that, type in -1, hit enter, then it's yes. Okay. Let me go ahead and do Shift Enter to accept that. You can also do some razzy jazzy colors. Okay, I say that loosely, but some basic colors. Let's go ahead and right click and I'll show you. Go to the Design view and let's go to the General tab for our, well, it's this one right here, that's right, our new health insurance number 2 with the data type yes, no. And go down to the field properties to the Format field, and instead of yes, no, what you can do is delete it, yes, and customize it. So you can do open quotes and say, got it, exclamation point. And so I'm doing more than just color. I'm going to actually change the text therein, got it, and then close quotes. And then let's go ahead and do open square bracket, and let's say it's blue, and then close square bracket, and then do a semicolon. So everything to the left of the semicolon in the yes, no is yes, we got it. And then no on the other side of the semicolon, that delimiter, let's go ahead and do open quotes and say nope, exclamation point, close quotes, and then we'll do open square brackets and type in red for red, because red means, hey, we really need it. And then close square brackets, be sure to hit the tab key so it can accept it upon your exit. In case if there's any problems, then it will prompt you. So let's see what happens when we come up here, click on the View button, be sure to save it. Hey, there we go. They got it. It's all in blue. Nope, we don't. That's in red. Okay, that's a problem. They need to have health insurance, so we can go ahead and set that to 0. Hit the tab key. It goes to blue. Hold down the shift key, hit enter, and it's saved. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.